Hello, everyone. Uh, we're doing this again. This whatever these things are. Interviews, I suppose. I
A
didn't expect
private
to get.
discussion, if you will.
Sure. I did not expect to have another one of these so soon. But thankfully, we caught someone here. Uh, Bombastic Blake. I actually meant to ask this before we actually started. Do you have like a preferred title you want to go by?
Actually, it just does that. Bombastic Blade. It's what I use on Twitter. It's what I use on Tumblr. It's what I use on YouTube. It's what I use on Twitch,
All
and
right.
also Patreon, because I'm a e-baiting faggot like that.
Okay. Sorry, I'm fucking around with my computer here trying to make sure everything works fine. Okay, sorry. All right. So you are going to be on Random Assault in a few weeks here, and the video will
Yep.
probably go up in like six or 7 years. That's usually the turnaround on those. But you wanted to take some time to talk about a man that we've covered on It Came from the Internet in a I'd say a mid-tier episode. Definitely one of our weaker ones. We had some technical problems there. Um,
Yeah. Actually,
and
a fun little fact for you guys. Fun little fact. I actually found the Random Assault channel through that episode of It Came from the Internet.
Most people do. Very few people found Random Assault before us.
But
They
that
just keep
episode specifically,
right.
is how I got led to you guys.
They just kept on trucking though. They've been doing this for a long ass time. So
Yep.
you can't ever say they sold out, at least on that front. Gerry Peet episode, not one of our best episodes, and one that I've been meaning to revisit for a while now, because of all the locales we cover. Gerry is probably the most active next to Darkside Phil.
Right.
He is constantly producing content in one form or another.
You call it content, I call it shit.
Well, yeah, no one says content has to be good, I guess.
I know, just look at my channel.
Yeah. So you are a former member of Gerry Peet's inner circle, correct?
That is true. I am a former member of his, I guess, production studio, you would call it, Valkyrie Studios.
Yeah, you can call it that.
All right. So, do I just give my history, or how are we going to do this?
I have absolutely nothing on you. I've not done any deeper research or anything like that. I guess we should start out here for anyone who doesn't know who is Gerry Peet. Would you, in your own words, how would you describe him?
Well, before he went completely off the deep end, I would say he was as a guy who, thought himself better than other people, kind of like most, or kind of like a real life version of Sheldon Cooper, but even more annoying than him.
Wow, that's the meanest thing I've ever heard someone say about another person before. Jesus. We are hitting the ground running here, huh?
I guess you could say that. Now, to understand my relationship with Gerry Peet, we would have to go back. We would have to go back in time to the magical year of 2013.
Right.
When
real quick before we deep dive, I guess to someone who doesn't know who Gerry Peet is. Gerry Peet is a reviewer, I guess. I have a hard time describing him because, like most locals, the actual content he produces is maybe the least important part of him as a personality. I guess his solitude is a series called Glass of Water, where his fake internet persona talks about My Little Pony episodes at length. But the real meat of Gerry is his Tumblr of sock puppets that he constantly talks to about fucking politics and junk.
It's like he's basically, oh god. For a second, I could hear myself. That's why I stopped.
That's fine. That's a Discord thing. Don't worry. You sound fine on this end.
Oh, okay. It's basically like he's talking to a room full of mirrors, pretty much.
Right.
When it comes to sock puppets.
You at home, if you're in the My Little Pony community, because I know the only people who listen to this crap are people who are just pure degenerates. You might know Gerry Peet. You might know Gerry Peet better under the name Lily Peet, because about 2 years ago now he came out as trans. Although
actually, I have some key info about that.
I'm sure you've got. I can't wait to get to that point, but I do want to establish that Gerry identifies as trans, even if no one else believes it. He himself goes by Lily Peet.
Right.
So with that in mind, that's really all you need to know about Gerry as a person. As we go in here, that he is just an insufferable narcissist who talks about My Little Pony. Because what else would he talk about?
Well, I mean, from what I've seen on the Kiwi farms for him, he does try to branch out into other stuff like Star vs. the Voices of Evil and Steven Universe, and basically just digging his hole of degeneracy deeper and deeper.
He did. I watched some of his Steven Universe stuff. When we get to that point, I'm sure we'll dig deeper into it so people can know that I'm absolutely no better than these people. I really like Steven Universe, actually. Yeah,
I've never actually watched an entire episode of Steven Universe, so I don't know.
It's really good. I like it. It's fun.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. He has attempted to branch out, but he's never really branched out super far. My Little Pony is still his bread and butter, from what I understand.
Right.
With the setup out of the way, I guess I'll just give the floor to you. We can start wherever you want to start, and just sort of take me through your history with him, I guess.
All right. Well, to understand, like I said before, to understand my history with Gerry Peet, we have to go back 4 years now to January of 2013 when I first discovered his videos. Because back then I was an even bigger faggot than I am now, and actually I used to religiously watch Zero Punctuation. I don't anymore. But when I did, I actually came across other videos that weren't by Yahtzee but had his same style. So I'm like, fuck it, I'll watch those. And that's how I came across Ballspawn, as he was known back then. And I don't know if his attempts to copy Yahtzee's fast-talking style is what got me, or the fact that he was saying things that I had no idea about. His first ever episode of that was about the whole Mujahideen conflict. And I had no fucking clue about that because American school systems suck and don't want you to believe anything other than America is great, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, that's how I found Gerry. And I eventually found his Tumblr, where I would see him talking to other people and think, I would like to get into the YouTube business. And so maybe if I get in good with this guy, I can branch out from there. So I try to butter him up and be his friend. And in the process, I actually got to befriend one of his friends, Nintendo Gal 55, if you've read the Stockholm fanfic, you know that she used to be a co-writer for that. But anyway, we became friends. Oh, go ahead.
So I guess to allow this to sort of stand on its own, for anyone who is not aware, Gerry's original claim to fame, back before even the Zero Punctuation knockoff stuff he did, and we should specify when we say it's like Zero Punctuation, we mean like he did the exact same stick figures and everything.
Yep.
It was identical. Whereas now Gerry has adopted a style more similar to Movie Bob, who is far worse than Yahtzee. Let me tell you, he is not a fun person to watch. But even before that, Gerry's claim to fame was he wrote a shit ton of fan fiction. We covered this in our original episode of Gerry, and it's kind of the reason I still kind of like the episode, is because just going through all the shitty accolades that he probably nominated himself for, and all the weird,
of course,
the Pokemon fanfics about Pokophilia, the fucking
That actually I didn't know about until I both listened to your video and also saw the Encyclopedia Dramatica article. I'm like, wait a minute, this guy did a Pokemon fanfic? Are you fucking kidding me?
It's fucking insane. Stockholm is his most well known because it's a grimdark My Little Pony fan fiction that's full of rape. And
right.
It usually,
and we all know how much people love that shit.
Yeah, and it usually gets cited as proof of Gerry as a pedophile because of how he lingers on the age of the characters. He himself denies that claim because, in his words, the rapist is the villain in Stockholm and gets his comeuppance at the end. But the problem is, I think when you really look at shows or series that deal with those types of villains, they don't go into the detail of the abuse. Like
not even Law and Order Special Victims Unit really goes into the detail of rapes. It just as they give brief little descriptions from the victim's perspective, and then they move on to try and find the son of a bitch.
Yeah, like even the most gruesome works try to avoid lingering on the act itself.
Right.
Berserk is really the only exemption to that. And fuck, dude, Berserk is hard to read at points because of it.
What about Violence Jack?
I don't know. I never read Violence Jack.
Well, from what I've seen and heard about it, it's like so bad that no anime reviewer on YouTube will even cover it. So
I assume Violence Jack is probably violent for the sake of violent, whereas Berserk is an actual it's a work. Like it's a work written by a writer who knows how to write. But
right.
I digress. At the end of the day, the point being is Gerry has a very, I guess, exploitative writing style, and he's more interested in the act than maybe the consequence.
Right.
And I feel like that's an important little bit of the Gerry universe. So continue, please.
Okay. So where I left off was, so I made friends with Nintendo Gal. We decided to make a very cringy confessions blog for his old show, RBI, and it is through that I get close to Gerry. Now, he doesn't let me into his group right away. I actually, I guess would say I had to go through some sort of weird-ass fucking initiation process.
Of course you did.
Through his sock puppet, Tara, he sexually harasses me and tries to get me to role play with the sock puppet, where Tara is Gerry and I am fawning over him, or him/her/it, whatever you want to call him.
But now I want to go down the short list here of known aliases for Gerry Peet. We know he has sock puppets quite a bit. We know that because on a My Little Pony form like Derpy Boro or something fucking retarded like that. The admin,
Boro, I think it is.
Yeah, like the admin just straight up came in one day to like an argument Gerry was having, and he just like Gerry, Ballspawn, Tara Callie, and like 3 other users are all from the exact same IP. Sorry, they're the same user. Fuck off. And so from there, that's sort of our Rosetta Stone of Gerry's sock puppets. We obviously don't know how many more people he sock puppets with, but there's like suspicions. I know.
Yeah,
most
according
recently.
Oh,
sorry,
that's probably what I was about. That's probably what I was about to say. According to the Kiwi Farms, like I don't know if you want to call it a sub forum on him. There's high suspicion that the Tumblr user, or known as the Last Alicorn, is also one of Gerry Peet's sock puppets. And actually, a fun little fact. Well, we'll have to get to this later, but after Gerry Peet sexually harassed me through the Terror account, I was let into the group. And I was so happy because I was finally, I thought it was part of something bigger, like a faggot. Yeah. So, both the literal and slang version of that term. But things were not very easy because it wasn't until 2014 that I actually was diagnosed with this. But for several years of my life, I had to deal with untreated suicidal depression. And I had one of my depressive episodes after joining the group. And instead of consoling me and giving me some time and to get my shit together, or giving me his ear to talk to, he instead just banishes me from talking to everybody for an entire fucking week. And I feel a little resentful for this, since as it was not just Gerry who was saying this, but also Tara. So I'm like, something's not adding up. So I go on Anon, I go to the confessions blog, and I say, I don't think Tara is real. So you can basically thank me for opening that can of worms. And I know that sounds like a narcissistic faggot thing to say, hey, but if nobody had made that confession, I don't think it would have blown up as much as it did. So that happens. The week passes, I come back to the group, and it's pretty much kind of sort of smooth sailing until Gerry decides to send me a script for an episode that he is planning to do. It's an episode on incestuous relationships. And I was uncomfortable with this because, and I rarely ever mention this, but I actually was sexually abused as a child. So having by family members. So having someone try and say, it's okay if they're brother and sister and they're honest to God in love with each other. No, that doesn't fly with me. And I would have told him that it didn't fly with me, but the way he had been treating not just me, but other people made me believe that he would not have seen my side of things, because like many other narcissistic faggots out there, for Gerry, it's all about him and his worldview. So if I don't play the role of yes man, then I would not get any further with the group. So right. I had to swallow my pride and just say, yeah, your script is great. Go ahead and film it, whatever.
We saw that with one of our last episode topics, Schmorky, who had a similar thing.
The diaper fur. I remember that.
Yeah. It's a little sad that you kind of have to give more description than that, because there's quite a few diaper furs on the show, actually.
Oh my
god. He sort of he didn't really have a group that we know of, but he had a girl. She was like 16, 17, who he was doing his weird role playing with, and she dropped a bunch of chat logs on him. And in one of the logs, she's sort of coming to him and telling him about this thing that happened to her. I think she was molested. I actually remember off the top of my head. And he doesn't really react. He just tries to keep going right into the role playing, because he can't empathize with her. He's a full-on sociopath. And when you really read like the shit that Gerry says, the shit that he posts all over the place, it can read a lot like sociopathy, but it's sometimes hard to tell when someone's exaggerating what they're saying to be hyperbolic, and what someone really means. Like, it's easy playing up an edgy persona to look tough on Tumblr. But when you sort of come here and sort of like, spill your heart, like, yeah, I went through this shit, but I was afraid, like, when you're afraid to tell someone your opinion out of fear of what they're going to say, it really kind of gives you insight into who the other person is, I think.
Right.
Being comfortable with disagreement is what really makes you a friend to someone in a weird way. Like, I'm not going to tell someone I just met on the street that what they're doing is wrong. But if my friend's doing something wrong, I almost feel an obligation to tell him.
Right, I get that. Also, sorry for the constant coughing. This thing has not been going away.
No, it's fine. We are, as long as we're not constantly falling, as long as the connection's stable, it's a step up from where we've been the last year or so. So to sort of build a timeline here, you sort of joined up with Gerry's group in 2013, like mid 2013, you said.
About like March 2013, I'd say.
How long? So how long would you say you were in the inner circle?
I was there for like the first half of 2013, and that is actually another story that needs to be told for why. Because um, like halfway into my tenure with the group, uh, Gerry Peet decides to have a debate with this guy, Templar Gamer. And originally, his buddy Ethan was supposed to be the moderator, but Ethan's grandpa was coming down with dementia and such. So Gerry, in his infinite wisdom, decides to basically kick him out of the group for putting his family over him. And I get drafted to be the replacement moderator. So I'm there for 6 hours, making sure that it doesn't devolve into a total wank fest or a total OP as a faggot fest, whatever you want to call it. And after that, one of Gerry's fans, who had become one of my fans, revealed that they wanted to, or they were trying to come on to me. Back then, they were known as the Hopeless Indie Blog, and one of the key factors was that they were underage. And I am not Gerry, so I immediately throw my hands up and say, no, I'm not going to fucking roleplay with somebody underage. That shit's fucked up. I don't care if it's fiction and not reality, blah, 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 blah. Please go away. They don't go away. Instead, they turn to Gerry and say that I tried to sexually harass them in chat. So Gerry, believing in this kid, decides to kick me out of the group without hearing my side of things, and that's the end of that. But it's not the end of my friendship with him.
Okay, so you were talking with Gerry for longer than your time with the group.
Yep.
To I guess not to because I don't want to force you along here, but just to sort of give I guess an idea of the scope. How long would you? When did you cut ties with Gerry, like entirely? When would you say was when you burnt the bridge finally? Just so we know where we're working up to.
That would be in 2015.
Okay, so you were.
I spent like 2 or so weeks in, I guess, isolation from them before Gerry decides to hit me up and say, hey, do you want to play Warcraft, Vanilla WoW? And I'm like, yeah, I got nothing better to do. So we play Vanilla WoW, blah, blah. And that actually plays into somebody else who was another former member of the group, a girl named Brittany. See, and Gerry, one of the big things about him is that he really, really, really likes World of Warcraft, right up until Wrath of the Lich King. After that, I don't know what his opinions are. But he was always trying to get his other friends to play, and he even made an account for Terra on a pirated, or on a, I guess it wasn't pirated, Vanilla WoW server.
I think I know what server you're talking about. There was a big controversy in like 2014, 2015-ish, because Blizzard was going to shut that server down.
Yeah.
And it's like the only original WoW server, because now there's like Cataclysm and shit, so the game's completely different.
Yep.
I think actually this will sort of tie into something here. The current sort of drama Gerry is obsessed with is the JonTron drama, excuse me, which I don't know if you've been following.
I've been following Kanye for like the most part. Like, I don't follow him on Twitter, but I've seen people reacting to his shit on Tumblr, and they're just like, it's just two camps. It's people all saying, oh, you're taking his shit out of context, and people saying, he's a racist, burn him alive.
Yeah, someone should really do some sort of podcast on that drama or something, you know? Just sort of catalog it. Oh, man.
Maybe catalog all the stuff that spawns from the internet, if you will.
Yeah, you know. But the reason I bring it up is he's very very anti JonTron, and he apparently has been for a very long time. But
Right.
John was
I
sort
actually
of
remember. I remember when Gerry first started being anti-JonTron was right when John made that remark in 2014, I think it was, when
oh
he called
yeah.
somebody retarded on Twitter.
Right. I don't. He didn't even call like a single person retarded. He just sort of said an idea was retarded.
Mm.
But he was a big part of getting that server like up and running, or not up and running, but he was like very vocal about how like no, we need to keep this server running because it's a part of it's not just a community, it's a part of gaming history, and he was sort of at the forefront of that. I don't know
Mm.
how successful he was in keeping that server up and running, but it's very weird that Gerry, who apparently loves that server as much as Chantron does, would take such an opposing point of view to it as he does. I guess it just goes to show that he's not really interested in ideas or points. He's interested in personalities.
I'd say it's even less than personality, and it's more. He the only people he likes are the people who completely 100% agree with his viewpoints. And it's like the old wrestling stable, the Nexus. He has that sort of mentality. You're either Nexus or you're against us.
What's that old quote? Which is it's like smart people talk about ideas. Moderate people talk about events. Dumb people talk about people.
I think that's right.
Yeah, that's where Gerry is. He's more interested in talking about people rather than the concepts or the ideas. He has a difficult time with abstraction.
And yet he still thinks himself to be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah. All right. Let's continue where you were. So you and Gerry are playing WoW with this Brittany girl. Is Brittany an actual person
No,
or
yes,
is
Brittany is an actual person, and I can tell you that with 100% clarity because I actually did an entire video of my show, Bombastic Blake, about what Gerry had done to me throughout the years, and Brittany had actually contacted me on that video and said, "Hey, Gerry's done a bunch of shit to me. Can we talk about this on Facebook?" And so she spilled her guts to me about what Gerry had done to her as well. And one of the big things was that Gerry had been harassing her to try and get on this WoW server, but the problem was that her computer was complete and utter ass, so she had to keep postponing it. And one day, Gerry just got fed up and was like, "Look, if you can't fucking and get your computer's shit together or get a new computer, or then I'll find somebody else to play with," which was really fucked up because from what Brittany has told me, she's not really been in the best financial state throughout her friendship with Gerry, or even before or after.
that's such a weird ultimatum because it seems like such a simple thing to like, oh well, this person can't play with me. I should play with someone else for a while. Like it doesn't even. It almost sounds when you describe what he says, it almost sounds innocent. It's only when in the context of who Gerry is that it takes on these sinister undertones. Of
Right.
when we established already that Gerry like is, I suppose I'm trying to think of the words here. What am I trying to think of? When he's so clearly like not flippant, but how am I completely drawing a blank on what this word is? Wow. Oh god damn it! This always happens when I record. Whatever. When he doesn't care enough to take like your opinions and feelings into consideration over like subjects that have personally affected you. Um, it's hard to read anything he says in like a casual light. He's not a casual person. He's a person of extremes. He does not
Right.
like like if my friend wanted to play Overwatch, but like my PlayStation or my computer was slow that day, like if my internet was slow, I'd just be like, "Sorry, man, I can't. My internet's fucked up." And he'd be like, "Oh, that's cool. Is there anything else we can play?" Or he'd be like, "Ah, that's fine. I'll just play by myself." Or me and someone else will play, you know? And we wouldn't really think about it at all. But like someone
Right.
like Gerry, like that has to be a personal affront to him. The way he acts and the way he responds to criticism and the way he even just responds to comments is so aggressive. He really can't help but he really can't help but come across as antagonistic, whether he means to or not. And I think he usually does, to be honest.
Oh yeah, especially nowadays when pretty much his main reaction to anyone saying anything remotely negative is for him to tell them to die.
Yeah, he brings that up a lot.
Yeah, and there actually is a little bit more to the Britney Wow situation,
Yeah, yeah, go
and
ahead,
because
please.
she finally does manage to get Wow to work, and he actually says as when Gerry realizes that she's managed to get Wow to work, or hey, we can play now, and she actually tells him, "I'd like to learn the mechanics by myself, before jumping in with somebody else." And again, he takes that as a personal affront, because when I first started playing WoW with him, I guess as he was a lot more, um, what's the word I'm looking for now? Uh, I guess he was more patient with me because uh, the last as big MMO I ever played was RuneScape back before it got the huge graphics update. And so I don't really know how most MMOs work, but he was okay with that. He was just, I was like, all right, take your time, and I'll be staying here a couple steps ahead, patiently waiting for you. But with Brittany, he was just, I guess, so run out of patience that he decided that if she didn't want to play with him right then and there, then he wasn't going to play with her at all.
Hmm. I wonder if that was like intentional. I wonder if he was like almost trying to craft his guild buddies. Like, did he kind of like push you into a certain play style or anything when you played with him?
No, he basically let me explore my own. Unlike first, I was a hunter, and that didn't really work out. But then I switched over to paladin on on an alliance side of the server, and he was like, "Oh, you're really good at that. Why don't you stay like? Why don't you be a paladin?" So I'm like, "All right, I'll be a paladin," and
Huh.
that playstyle worked well for me.
Were there a lot of people in his WoW group at this time, or was it mostly just you and him?
It was me, him, uh, Ethan was on there, I think, once, and also Tara, and that's kind of where I thought that there was a big hole in my idea that Tara wasn't real. Because how the fuck do you manage to have two computers that's playing WoW, and manage to know what you're doing in both of them? But
Hey.
I don't know. I guess some people are good at multitasking. I don't know.
I guess he might have even like just had someone else using the Terra account.
He might have. I'm not sure.
That's interesting. I want, yeah, because I'm wondering if he was just trying to build up like a squad of people, and he didn't want her like learning a play style that was incompatible with his.
Right, right.
And I want, yeah, like maybe you were just early enough that it really didn't matter which one you chose. Like maybe you said didn't maybe excuse me. Uh, I almost misgendered Gerry there for a second. Maybe he didn't want to have two paladins in the group, so he didn't want her to like also learn paladin like you did. He just wanted to like
Maybe.
micromanage the group so much. It's such a it sounds super petty, like but like it sounds super petty. But we're talking about Gerry Peet here. Gerry's the type of fucking
Yeah.
dude who like if he sees someone play Symmetra in Overwatch, he bursts a fucking blood vessel. Doesn't
I've never
matter how
actually
good
played
you are.
Overwatch. Is it any good?
Overwatch is great. I really like it.
I would get it, but I have like $2 in my Steam library, so
Yeah, it's a fun game. I think it's a little overrated for the amount of content there, but it's a worthwhile time. Gerry's not very good at it because he complains constantly. And real quick, I want
right, right.
that was a really fucking stupid. diatribe I went on there. So I'm probably going to edit that out. So please continue.
Okay. So, we already went through the whole, Brittany playing WoW thing,
Right.
and
So
before
he's
the Overwatch period.
yeah. So he's sort of forcing this Brittany girl to play with him, even though she's not really in a position to do so, and he seemingly wants to micromanage her play style too, because he doesn't want her to play by herself.
Right.
Which I could maybe understand if he wanted to start over with her, but it doesn't sound like he did. It sounded like he wanted to like use his current character to sort of carry her through the game, doesn't it?
It does actually, which is kind of strange, and since uh, as far as I can remember, he didn't do that with me. But then again, you might have been right in saying that maybe I was just so early in his guild that it didn't matter, or that he could just make new characters for whatever I decided to do.
It's interesting. So what sort of happened after that? So I guess right now at their current count, we have at least two friends of Gerry who have turned on him.
Right. After our first play session and of WoW, he has a live stream of him and Ethan. So we know that Ethan is real. Him and Ethan and like in person taking questions as like a live Q&A. I had to ditch out of that to go to work, but I asked a couple of questions, and so just so that he could say, "Oh, Blake was here. He asked a couple of questions. That's cool." But no, I come back and Gerry messages me when I say, "Hey, I'm back from work," and he says, "Speaking of work, I'm having some money troubles because I guess he wasn't getting enough money from YouTube." And he just so casually decides to mention that Tara has taken to cam whoring, and he tries to pressure. I jokingly suggest, well, why don't you do the same since you have so many fans who want to fuck you?
Which he kind of was, if he was being honest about Tara.
Yeah. So he thinks that that's a good idea, but he needs someone to test that on. And unfortunately, that's where he decides to pressure me into saying, to eventually saying, "Sure, go ahead, fucking strip. I don't give a fuck." So he gets into a video call with me, and he takes off his shirt. And at this time in his life, he was living with Ethan. So thankfully, Ethan's and his folks come home before he takes anything else off. Which, thank fucking God, I didn't want to see any more of that pasty son of a bitch.
Oh my
but
God.
Unfortunately, the sad part is, I wasn't the only one who he did that to. He also did it to Brittany. And the reason for him stripping in front of her was because Brittany is a lesbian, or a dyke, whatever your fans want to call her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the reason, and that he decided to strip in front of her was because she had some problems with males in her life previously. So he was trying to get her to feel comfortable around men again, which that does not make a lick of fucking sense, but who the fuck am I to judge, right?
Trying to get her comfortable around men again through a computer screen where they live countries apart or whatever.
Yeah. Because like she was in Texas and he is all the way in fucking Redneckville version of Canada.
He's such a weirdly sexual person. Like, it's so
Which
bizarre.
is funny. Which is so funny to me because in his RBI days, he explicitly stated that he was asexual. So it was really fucking weird to see him take this huge turn for the sexual. And I don't know where it came from, but I really wish he had stayed asexual just for everyone else's fucking sake.
I can tell you where it came from because asexuals aren't real. Like, okay, maybe 1 in every 10 million people maybe is a real asexual. Like, they got in a car accident and a sheet of metal went right into the part of their brain that makes them feel sexual feelings. It's just cut it out, or or they were traumatized so badly that they just don't feel sexual feelings at all anymore, or they were just born
Right.
weird. It was just a weird birth defect, and they just don't really care that much about it. Nowhere near the amount of people who say they are asexual are asexual. What they are is lonely, and they're too afraid to admit it because they think it makes them a loser to be alone. It doesn't. If you're alone, you're alone. It doesn't matter. All right. It doesn't matter to anyone but you if you're a virgin or if you don't have a girlfriend or if you don't have anyone else in your life. All right. If you don't, it's fine. It really doesn't matter that much. But they think it does. So to convince themselves that they're not wrong, that they're not broken, they make up an illness. I guess it's not an illness, but they make up a defect that they don't have to make them feel better about themselves. It's not that I can't get a girlfriend, it's that I don't want a girlfriend. It's the same mentality that incels have. It's the same mentality that MGTOWs have. It's not that I can't get it, it's that I don't want it. And it all happens the same way. Eventually, they do meet someone. Eventually, the tide changes and they stop lying to themselves about it. And with Gerry, it just seemed to have boiled over into this ugly froth
of hypersexualization.
I really don't like thinking of Gerry and frothing at the same time. I don't know why, but just the imagery isn't good.
Just imagine him as a Starbucks latte.
Oh God. Someone in the Discord was posting a bunch of Starbucks Rule 34 earlier today, so that's not okay.
Actually, I can kind of, I guess I can't really empathize, but I can and see where people who claim to be asexual are coming from, because for a long time, because I had been traumatized as a child, I had a lot of problems with sexual stimulation. Like, I guess it would be more like performance anxiety and not asexuality. But for a long time, I just thought that I was physically asexual, whereas mentally, I did want to be intimate with somebody.
A lot of people have problems with intimacy, either physically or emotionally. Like, it's not a rare thing. Like, everyone has hangups. It's just I think the grand majority of people who say they're asexual are just using it to feel better about themselves when they don't really need to. If you don't want to be with someone, that's fine. It doesn't have to be a medical fucking thing. Everything's got to be a fucking category nowadays. Jesus. People can't live.
But anyways, where were we? Oh yeah, the two stripping incidents is after that. I can't really remember much. I think I just had like one big, I guess, meltdown on Tumblr because before I made my own YouTube show, I used to have these paragraph long rants that I would do about just stupid shit. Like when I think it was Madden 15 came out and people were making gifs like Super Hulock is dumb, bronies are stupid.
Oh yeah,
and I'm just like,
I remember that.
I just had this whole rant about like, you guys are being bullies, stop it. And I guess I had one of those rants that I came out with, and Gerry decided that I had crossed some line with him, and he just started screaming at me on Skype. After that, we stopped talking for a while.
That's weird.
I don't think he's done that with anybody else.
No, he totally has. Let me, real quick, for anyone who doesn't know, for Madden 15, for some reason they made this stupid GIF creator that you could use, and it would just take animations from the game and put, like, text over them. And me and David had a shit ton of fun with that, as did most people. Like, shit like, it's not gay if it's cute, or shit like, it's a running back running.
It's on the moon.
Yeah, or there's a running back running. She said, "You can't catch me now, gay thoughts." Shit like that. It was real fun. Real quick, I mean, you maybe would know this more than I do. Are there people who are Tumblr famous? Like, are there people who make their living on Tumblr? It seems to be the only social media platform where I don't hear about people like making a living off of it.
Can actually make a living, but it would require tampering with Tumblr's code, which is very unstable already. But for your personal blog, and I actually learned this because of Gerry, and you can actually alter the code for your personal blog to have advertisements on it, and whenever somebody visits your blog, you get a little bit of AdSense off of it. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if that's why Gerry's blog went down once or twice, because Tumblr came onto that and realized, hey, you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, that's
only we're allowed to make money off of Tumblr.
It seems to be the only like big social media platform where people don't make a living off of it. Like, I know motherfuckers who made a living off of Vine.
Oh yeah, that's where Nash Greer came from, and Thomas Sanders and other people.
That's interesting. Quick aside, I know for a fact, like, this is maybe a month ago, Gerry was bragging about how he would see people in his own fandom, quote unquote, harassing others, and he would pull them into Skype, and he would this is how he fucking described it. He said that he would yell at them until they were in tears. And the way he sort of, I wish I could find the post right now. I certainly wouldn't be able to find it.
I'm sure you can find it on Kiwi Farms.
Yeah, that's where I found it from, but it was, that must have been like fucking 50 pages ago now. But he was bragging about it. Like, he was really proud of himself for it. And then someone messaged him like, why would you be proud to berate someone to tears? And he said like, oh, because he said something stupid like, oh, it's my job to keep them in line. He has this very strong feeling that content creators have a responsibility to make sure their fans don't like harass other people.
Which, I mean, I can kind of understand that, because otherwise you get stuff like I don't know, Call of Duty or COD kitties on Xbox Live screaming obscenities is without any sort of repercussion.
I think the repercussion is just that people don't want to play with them, though. I don't think anyone has a duty to make sure their fandom is like kept in check. That's ridiculous. Like,
but what if they're called to that duty?
That's a good point. What if they're called to that? What if they're called to that battlefield for that Medal of Honor in 2149? Someone's got to keep Overwatch on these guys, you know.
Yeah.
But it's ridiculous.
Maybe they're just battle-born.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just born to battle.
That's the first time anyone has said anything about Battleborn in 2017. Congratulations. It's just
maybe I'm not the best judge for that, because I still like Gearbox despite all the stuff, but that's just because I really like Borderlands.
Everyone really liked Borderlands.
Mm.
So they stop fucking teasing it and just put 3 out already, but I digress. It's just so... Fuck, what was I talking about? God damn it.
It's strange to you to see him be so adamant about policing fandoms.
Right, that's what it was, sorry. Yeah, it's just shit. Who wrote How to Kill a Mockingbird? God damn it.
I forget who that was too. Shit.
Whatever, that broad. Like, some dude, like, killed a bunch of people because of the book. Is she personally responsible? Of course not.
I would not say so. No.
Like, fucking Charles Manson claimed that he did his shit because of Helter Skelter. Are the Beatles responsible for that?
No, as a matter of fact, they are not. Because I think there's a difference in his mind, and I can kind of see where he's coming from with this. Like, music producers and book writers can't control everyone who sees their songs, but when it comes to, at least with gaming, you can kind of control who does what, because you have people who are in charge of servers and have to make sure that not only they're in working order, but any complaints you get are addressed.
But even then, like, and even usually when I see him talk about it, he's talking about it more in regards to like YouTubers and shit.
Right.
I'm not saying there should be no moderation on like online games or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, you don't have a personal obligation to keep your fans in check. Like, if tomorrow a dude wearing it came from the internet shirt like shot up a mall, like, that's not my responsibility. No one's going to take me to court for it. That's crazy.
Personal aside, I would absolutely buy an "it came from the internet" shirt.
I think we have them. I don't know for sure. I know at some point Matt made a joke like, fucking next time they put out an episode, I'll release that shirt when they put out an episode in 6 years. And then we put out an episode the next fucking day. So there may be somewhere. I don't know. We don't make any money off of them, so I don't really make it a point. But they might be out there. I don't know. We'll find out. Who cares?
Right.
Anyway. Yeah, like, and like I at one point he like posted this like someone had commissioned a friend of him to do art of Gerry. It was Dishonored art, right? And it's like art of like the Dishonored guy killing a
Corvo.
Corvo, yeah, it was Corvo killing a guard. And the dude was like, yeah, I want this, but I want me. And he posted Gerry killing this guy. And he posted Josh Scorcher, a man that I'm sure we'll talk about here in a little bit, who is embroiled with Gerry's e-drama. And Gerry got a wind of this, and he pointed out, and he's like, are you going to tell me that I still don't have a responsibility to keep my fandom in check? And my immediate response was like, no, you don't. Because, one, it doesn't even matter if that guy's a fan or not. Like, he did that on his own. It's not your fucking responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually tried to get that same art piece commissioned by a couple people, and no one would do it.
Well, yeah, because they probably had standards and don't want to have, like, murder arts drawn.
No, they were just like, that's too complicated. Like, are you kidding me for a joke? Come on. And I was like, yeah, okay. Like, I'm not a professional artist. Calm down. But my point being, like, I could have done that, and he would have been able to do jack shit about it. But by his logic, he still would have been responsible for it.
I think a big reason, or I think a big part of why he started doing this was because of all the brony drama that happened, and like way early in the fandom's infancy. Like when Friendship is Magic was first being aired in the first 2-3 seasons, and he and I were both minor parts of that drama. Like when the Derpy controversy came out, and I'm like, hey, I actually took a stand and said, hey, dude, this isn't cool. You don't fucking censor a character because somebody might get offended. You change the fucking channel. And Gerry, he took a different stance, which I don't even remember.
I just want to point out that I think the words brony drama are what they're going to end up writing on my tombstone. The way my life's going. Okay, so we are past the shripping incidents now in our timeline. How far into your friendship with Gerry would you put this? Are we still in 2013, or have we breached into?
It is actually still in 2013.
Okay, so we're about 4 or 5 months in, roughly. Would you say?
It was actually. It's not even 4 or 5 months. It was October.
Okay, so that's not very far. All right. So what would you say? What was the next major event with Gerry?
The next major event was when I actually decided that since I can't get back into the group, I would just start my own a YouTube channel. Because back then I had a lot of rants in my head about different shit, and I decided, why don't I just sit down, write up a couple scripts in Microsoft Word, and record them on Movie Maker and put them up on YouTube just to get them out of my head. kind of like the "you know what really grinds my gears" skit from Family Guy.
Yeah, but that's a big part of learning how to fucking make videos and shit. Though you just have to put crap out there just to get it done.
Yeah. So I started trying to promote myself on Tumblr, I guess, and Gerry would sometimes reblog from me, and he would remove the links to my videos that I would put in as shameless self-promotion. And I finally confront him about it, and he flat out tells me, "Don't try to do what I do. Like, you fucking suck at it." And
Jeez.
and that was a blow to my ego, but I kept going.
That's
so,
super fucking like he's a clear ripoff of the Zero Punctuation guy, and Gerry's not a very good video creator at all. Like he's mid tier at best. Like he's slightly better than we are because he actually edits his shit. But
yeah,
like,
I don't even fucking edit my shit. But that's just because trying to figure out how to edit is difficult for me.
he is the bare minimum for someone who's trying to make a living off of this. But like he doesn't make shit. He just uses other people's art and then he talks over it.
Mm-hmm. But no, that was actually in early 2014, and we didn't talk much after that, outside of a couple spats here and there. But I was getting close to being done with him. What finally pushed me over the edge, and actually before we get to that, I have to bring up Brittany again, because she had told me about another incident with him where I can't remember the exact details, but basically, here, let me actually, she told me all of this through Facebook, and getting archived. Just fucking get it to load. Here we go. I'm sorry I'm being quiet right now. I'm just trying to fucking open the entire...
No, it's fine. Real quick, I'm going to close the call and start it back up to reconnect the voices. You're coming in and out a little bit. Sometimes when Discord goes on for too long, it gets a little iffy. So let me just,
okay.
I'll quit out. I'll give it like 30 seconds and then I'll come back in.
Okay.
Okay. All right. We should be better now.
All right. There we go. So I found what she said. Basically, what had happened was Gerry has done a lot of things that he had done to me to different people. Like with Brittany, he actually he was being tired of her not wanting to talk, and just decided to go off on her for no other reason than because she didn't want to talk to him and was going through a bunch of personal shit. And he just went on this giant rant on Skype, which, if you go to the Encyclopedia Dramatica page, it's actually all there for both yourself and the entire audience to see. And he had actually decided that because he was so mad at her, like he had been mad at me, he was going to basically slander both of our names. First hers, and then several months later, or he would do the same to me, and basically say, "Hey, these people were outliers, and they're the reason why I control my friends and my fans so much." And most people have come to the conclusion of is that no, you're just a fucking asshole.
Yeah, he's such a, and I say this knowing full well the irony of it, considering his sort of history with Mass Effect. He's very entitled to other people, you know, like he really, it's not just that he wants to hang out with you and Brittany, it's that he feels that you owe him that for some reason.
Right.
It's very bizarre. Like, people usually aren't this entitled to just folks on the internet, you know? Although I guess I kind of can see why he would start to act that way, because it's very obvious that he has no friends in real life. He has no job. He's not very close to his family. His brother makes fun of him all the time.
That was fucking amazing when that happened.
Yeah, that was great. So I see why he would see you guys in like inflated importance, but at the same time, like I wouldn't treat my best friend that way. Like, I wouldn't talk to my friend like I was entitled to his time or his existence. You know?
Right, and I see the exact same thing, and like a lot of my content nowadays is group let's plays with myself and my friends, and if somebody is not available for recording, I don't blow up at them and say, "Oh my God, how dare you! I'm entitled to your time." No, I just say, "All right, we'll record without you. Do your best to catch up to where we are in the game, and that way, in the next time we record, you won't be lagging behind us."
Yeah, it's super weird the way he treats the people that he apparently wants to be close to. Um,
Right.
so what happened? What happened next? I guess what's next in our timeline?
That's pretty much it for 2014. What happens next occurs in 2015 after I get engaged. Um, he's at first he was making me uncomfortable for making all these jokes about how LOL, don't stick your dick in crazy, and blah blah blah, and basically just bad mouthing in me for getting a girlfriend and later having her become my fiance, and now she's my wife. But we both ceased contact with him before we got married.
What a weird. Oh, that's just weird.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he was just maybe, and I hate playing devil's advocate for this son of a bitch, but maybe he thought that because we were escalating our relationship so quickly, it would lead to bad news. But whatever.
It
The
sounds
final
like
straw.
it just sort of sounds like he's
Oh, go
jealous,
ahead.
to be honest. Because at this point, he's already expressed interest in you with the stripping fiasco. So it doesn't just read like he. I don't know.
Well,
It just sort, yeah.
I think he stopped feeling interest for me when he realized that I wasn't just going to be a blind ass kissing yes man, and that I actually had my own thoughts and opinions on things. Like, we're both liberal, I guess you would call it, but I am more moderately liberal, where he is more extreme liberal. And whenever I would say, maybe hey, a couple of the moderate right people have a point, he would just shut me down completely and say, no, they're the enemy, they're wrong, and we would just leave it at that because I didn't want to start a big argument, and I would much rather just sit around and talk shit and make jokes.
Gerry takes a very dangerous point of view with his politics, which is supremely not quite, maybe fascist isn't the right word because it gets thrown around so much, but he takes a very totalitarian point of view of
Oh yeah, he's always had totalitarian views. One of the earliest questions on his first blog, before he completely revamped it, was what kind of political leanings do you have? And he responded by saying that he is a left-wing authoritarian. So right away we know that he expects everyone to follow his commands to the T, and and that he wants to rule over people with an iron fucking fist. Or he wants somebody else to rule with an iron fist.
I just mean that it's always us versus them. There's never middle ground. There's never he dehumanizes the opposition so much that it's impossible to really hold a debate or a conversation with him, because if you don't take his stance, you're automatically this Sauron-esque monster. Like you're forfeiting your own humanity by disagreeing with him in the first place.
Yeah,
and you know, when it's just him cucking around on Tumblr, that's fine. But you know, that point of view is super fucking dangerous. That's the point of view that, like, well, we don't need free speech. We just need to not let the bad guys ever talk. Like, that's the type of person Gerry is. He's the type of person who looks at the Bill of Rights. He looks at, like, human rights, and he sees them applied uniformly, and he thinks it's a miscarriage of justice, you know?
Right. And the sad part is he wasn't always like that, because when I first met him, I believed myself to be a much more right-leaning. But we actually sat down and had a conversation about like what I believe in, and he is like, dude, you're not right at all. Actually, a lot of your beliefs are left-leaning. And so if he had taken that stance constantly, to try and find a middle ground or make people realize we actually have a lot more in common than you think, then he wouldn't be as much of a fucking asshole. But that was then, this is now, and now he's just a fucking faggot piece of shit.
Well said. I also wonder if maybe he didn't want you getting married because he saw it as him losing control over you somehow. Like, even with an extended period of, I suppose, no contact, like it sounds like you two had, he still didn't. That might have been like him seeing you as being taken as someone else's almost, which is very.
That might actually be the case.
Which is very weird, because generally I think people perceive, you know, the woman is the one being taken because he's the one who takes the other man's name or whatnot. But I guess if it's Gerry, like, I guess it could be he could see you as the girl in the relationship, I guess. I don't know. That's getting in some weird mental territory, because that just brings me back to the stripping scenario, and I don't like having that thought in my head.
Yeah, trust me, you don't want the mental image of him without a shirt.
Oh, just God,
blot it out with dick girl porn or something. I don't know.
Right, that's what I usually do. He's so, for anyone who doesn't know, there's no footage of Gerry Peet in like the last 2 or 3 years. Like, the only images we have of him are from his old persona. And when we've seen those images, he's so like bony and greasy. He looks like a metalhead from a trailer park. You know.
Funny thing is, he actually did grow up in the trailer park.
Well, doesn't that explain everything?
Because like Tara actually used to have a Facebook, and one of the key moments on that Facebook was met Gerry Peet at Woodbine Trailer Park. So I'm going to assume that Woodbine Trailer Park is where he and his family used to live.
Yeah, that makes sense. Somewhere in, like, dug deep in the middle of Trailer Park Boys, Gerry Peet's just in the background for like half an episode somewhere.
Oh God, please don't give him any ideas. Last thing we need is for him to ruin something like Trailer Park Boys, which I haven't seen, but I have heard is pretty funny.
It's great. It's amazing. It's hit or miss sometimes, but it's up there with Always Sunny as far as comedies go.
I have also never seen Always Sunny, which I guess means that I have never truly lived.
It's really good. They're both really good. You should check them out sometime. So with that here, I guess you seem to have burnt your bridge after your marriage
Well,
mazel
no,
tov,
the
by the
bridge
way.
the bridge was burnt. The bridge was burnt before the marriage, actually, because I had basically what it boils down to is I said something and that I can't even remember, and Gerry decides to revlog it and just tear into me like he usually does because he's a controlling sack of crap. And my fiance at the time and decides, hey, you don't need to take this. And I'm like, well, he doesn't listen to me. So she decides to step in and call him out on being an abusive asshole. And he decides, instead of listening, to claim that no, he's not abusive. She's just, she and I are both just thin skinned or some crap. And uh, after that, and after he tells her, don't call me abusive ever again, and Aiden asks, wow, I've never seen you get this angry. And he responds by saying that if my fiance had been in the room with him, he would have struck her with a belt. The
Oh,
phrase he
okay.
used was belted her. Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember that. I remember that. I did not know that was you who he was referring to.
Yep, he was referring to me and my fiance.
That's a
And at
little.
that point, I was just like, fuck you,
I
and
think
completely ceased all contact.
I think the problem is Jerry might. I think this is before he came out as trans, but he might not see himself as a man. You know, he might see himself as a woman, and thus that's not like a shitty thing. That's not an off limits thing to say. Um, it is a shitty thing to say regardless, but I just think in Jerry's weird, twisted mind, he's like, well, I'm a girl, so I can hit a girl if I want to, and society will not think less of me for it.
Yeah, that might that might actually be the case, but I actually may have a big hole to puncture in the whole idea that Jerry is trans. And I know that you and most other are people who aren't directly in his fandom don't think that he is transgender, but I have a big reason for why I don't believe so. You see, back during his days as Ballspawn, he decided to state an opinion of his about how people were discussing whether or not trans characters should be in video games. And he took the side of saying, hey, no, we don't really need them because it doesn't matter if a character is gay, straight, or whatever. What matters is if the character is compelling, which I can kind of see. But the Tumblr or trans community was not very happy with that. And they were just basically sending him message after message after message and saying, dude, this isn't cool. Well, we'd really appreciate if you revoke your statement or issue an apology or something like that. And he got so tired of it that he just told the entire Tumblr trans community, you want me to be the bad guy? Fine, I'm the bad guy. And the idea of him coming out as transgender after doing that, especially since he chose to come out as transgender right after he had said he had been getting into trouble with his Stockholm fanfiction, paints a lot of red flags for me. And I'm sure it paints a lot of red flags for other people.
Yeah, definitely. Jerry definitely reads to me as a so-called trans trender, which is a fairly new phenomenon of the last few years of people identifying as trans because it earns them maybe not pity points, but it sort of adds
It
some
allows them to get away with things.
yeah, and it allows them to like it puts them higher on the progressive stack, basically.
Right. And I think Onison actually tried to he either pulled that shit or he parodied that just recently with a video that was titled "I'm Trans." So maybe he was just making fun of people like Gerry who were coming under fire for something and then decided to come out as transgender to reflect criticism.
I can never tell with Onision. That dude is full on pants on head retarded. Fuck. I do remember I do remember seeing that in the works. Like he was on Twitter talking about how he was trans, but I did not follow up on it super intently. I tend to focus in on one cow at a time. Uh,
Yeah.
so I'm sure
Although I
we'll.
am looking forward to, I was gonna say, I am looking forward to if you guys decide to make a video for Onisun and other topics. Like I know it's probably just being a dead horse, but if you ever make a Ballad of the Bronies, I would watch it.
Onision is definitely in the pipeline eventually. He's one of the first cows that I really was interested in. It's just that there's always something that seems a little more pertinent than him, but he'll definitely get done eventually.
Yeah.
So I guess now that we have ended it with your relationship with Gerry, did you want to comment on some of the controversies since then? I assume being a former member of his inner circle, you still catch a lot of the wind of what he does.
Most of what I catch is because I was actually told by a couple of other Tumblr users, Doritos Pope and Templar Gamer, or they were saying, "Hey, a lot of other people are coming out of the woodwork to say fuck Gerry, and we'd appreciate it if you would come out and tell your story to them, so that we could have a bigger profile of the things that he's done." So I am active on the cow thread for Gerry and on the Kiwi Farms thread, and basically to I told my story, and now I'm just there to see what he is doing now, and whether or not there's some kind of chink in his armor or that we can pursue to hopefully bring him down, or at least produce more milk. I don't know.
Yeah, so I guess what I would like to talk about real fast is the Josh Scorcher drama, because I think that's maybe the most revealing thing that Gerry has done in years. I think it defines him both as a lolcow and as a person. We touched upon this
Right.
a little bit in the recap episode we tried to do in I think it was earlier this year we tried to do it.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not 100% sure when that was. We definitely tried to do a recap episode where I tried to touch on it and it didn't really fall through. The episode didn't really come out very well. So I'd love to talk about that again real fast. Um,
Okay.
and you might know a little. You might be able to give some context here. Do you know who Josh Scorcher is?
I do actually. When I first heard about those, like his response to Ball Spawn video, and his response to the fans' response, I checked out his channel briefly. But after that, I kind of stopped watching him because I had a bunch of other content creators that I was following, so I didn't need another one added to the pile. But after his response to Lily video, which came out after Guard Break, the Glass of Water episode that was dedicated to Josh, I started digging more into it, and it sounds like what had happened was after he had kicked me to the curb, and after he had kicked Brittany to the curb, he decided to focus on Josh and Inkros, who was another, I guess, Brony or Pegasus or analyst. I don't know. And after Inkros got tired of his shit, he focused entirely on Josh. And then the whole Josh Scorcher drama happened.
Right. Josh is another member of the Brony community who I believe he is sort of the head of the military Bronies, which is
Right, because
just
he
great.
has the most, he has the biggest voice amongst them. Because there are a couple other or smaller name military bronies out there, but he is the one with the most. What word am I looking for here?
Weight.
Or weight? Yes.
Um, yeah, I would. I also believe some of the fans might be a little more familiar with this, with Retsu Prey, who are a group who used to make fun of shitty Let's Players on YouTube, they've largely fallen out of that. Chip Cheesem, who is definitely the best of that group, he did a video sort of making fun of something called, it was like the top saddest moments in video games. And I didn't find out until like a month ago that that is Josh Scorcher's video. It was like it has nothing to do with My Little Pony, so they didn't really bring it up. I didn't realize until later that that was also him. He's
Huh.
he's an ball like most bronies are. The only reason we really don't talk about him on the show is just that he is being, I
You
guess,
kind of persistent.
sorry. The only real reason we don't talk about Josh is that he's kind of being, for lack of a better term, bullied by Gerry constantly.
Right.
And he's a weird dude, but he seems like an okay person. He seems like the type of
Yeah,
person. Yeah, like
I was
there's
gonna
a
say,
lot of. He kind of reminds me
say,
of like. You go ahead.
of the bigger name bronies, he seems to be the one with the most level head. And so, like, he talks us to his fans very civilly. He, and, just makes videos about, top 10 this, top 10 that. He doesn't really do anything, and that would make you write him off as a lol cow. At least that's what I've seen of him. I don't know what you guys have dug up, or if you even dig anything up on him.
Not a whole lot. It's goofy how much the fur around My Little Pony, but I think he's a lot like Markiplier or PewDiePie. Like I think his content is utter trash, but he as a person seems fine. I probably
Right.
if I met him on the street, we'd probably get along really well. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which it makes. So, did you see any of Gerry's relationship with Josh while you were in their inner circle?
I did. Most of what I saw was just a gentle, I guess, ribbing between in the two, but maybe behind the scenes, like what I didn't see, it was a lot more vitriolic or even toxic, which I guess is true because according to Josh's response video, things have been going fast fairly quickly after I left and after Brittany was kicked and after Ink Rose was kicked.
So the timeline that we've sort of built is that Josh had hired Gerry to be his editor, which is super common. I found out, like every fucking idiot on YouTube has someone else edit their videos for them.
That's
Like,
actually one of my Patreon stretch goals is to hire an editor because I have tried very hard to learn how to edit and it all just seems very complicated for me.
That's insane.
Maybe I just don't have the right teacher.
Darkside Phil has been right the whole time. He really is the realest dude on the internet. Wow, who would have guessed? And the two had differences and falling outs because of the editing gig. That Gerry would kind of force Josh to take a closer point of view to him. Like there were issues that Josh maybe took a more moderate or a more right wing, stance on. And Gerry would not put those parts in videos. He would be very adamant about removing them from said videos until eventually their friendship just sort of fell apart. And initially, Gerry on his Tumblr and everywhere was very apologetic. He really seemed honestly like he seemed sad that their relationship had ended the way it did, and he took all the responsibility for it. And something happened where he just started to fester. And he very quickly sort of took upon a more aggressive tone. And he would constantly talk shit about Josh on his Tumblr and everywhere fucking else until he had put out that video where he pretends to review an episode of My Little Pony and spends at least 80% of the video talking about why Josh is such a scumbag.
And actually, outside of that video, it's actually a bizarre case of deja vu for me, because after we had a falling out, or after I got kicked out of the group, but before I severed my ties with him completely, he would just find a lot of any chance he could to take pot shots at me, and he did the same thing when Ethan briefly left the group. I feel like that's his way of, it's a very toxic way, but it's his way of coping with the loss of friendship. Like first he thinks, oh man, this sucks, it was all my fault, except for me because I was just his punching bag. But then as time rolls on and he can't get this person out of their head, he just starts to realize, wait, I'm not the problem, they are. And then he just decides to take on this smear campaign against them, whoever they may be.
Yeah, it's interesting that you sort of said there that things heated up after you and Brittany and Inkros all seemed to leave. When you say that, do you mean like that was that like when Gerry fired, or do you think, or was that when Gerry started to like write his hit piece about Josh?
I think after myself, Brittany, and Inkros left, Gerry was still working with Josh, but because his friend circle had decreased so rapidly, he started focusing in like what he had come to each of us for, and he was trying to channel them all into Josh as his one channel, because I don't know if he still talks to Ethan and Nintendo Gal. Oh, but if not, then Josh was his last straw. And as he started pushing the boundaries with Josh, he started to realize that Josh was not going to be like the rest of us and bow so quickly. And once Josh fired him, that was the straw that broke his back.
Yes, that might explain why he seemed to have a lapse in character, why he seemed so apologetic, is because it wasn't just that he had lost Josh, he had lost almost all of his friends. Seemingly, actually, all of his real ones. Because as far as people who were still in his inner circle, it just seems like Tara Callie was the only real one left, who was just a sock puppet.
Right. And Tara wasn't even around for that long, because he got rid of her before I left, or before I severed my contacts, because this was around the time that the first Stockholm incident came about, and he was trying to sever all ties with, I guess, the pedophilic parts of his nature, and he had gone on record as saying that Tara was very hypersexual, and had a history of very racy kind of relations with people who were not yet legal. So he decided, if I can get rid of this pedophile friend, and by saying, oh, she went to jail for having kitty porn, then that'll get all the blame off of me. But it didn't. So he had to take the next step and say that he was trans to continue to remove any sort of suspicion off of him, and that still didn't work.
Yeah, the pedophile point has not been forgotten really by any of his detractors. It still comes up very often. It does sort of give him a bizarre sort of shield that I think his fans gobble up. It's the idea that he's trans, so these people are coming at him because they're trans. Look at how they misgender him and shit. Rather than, well, look at how their points are wrong. You know, and they sort of take a surface look at what they're saying, and then they're like, no, I don't care. It doesn't really matter if the person's being an asshole. Like, that doesn't make their point invalid, you know? Like, if Charles Manson says the sky is blue, it doesn't magically become green. He's still correct.
Right.
the Josh Scorcher drama in particular has always run to me as kind of heartless because Josh's response seems so humble and almost sad. And Gerry has not let up. He has continued to trash Josh constantly. I think he's heavily alluded that he's going to put another hit piece on Josh in the near future.
Yes. And actually, Josh's response was what spurred me to take action and to make my episodes for my show regarding all the stuff that he had done to me. Because before that, I was just scared that I would be alone and that against Gerry's massive fandom, well, massive in quotation marks, I would just, everything that I had said would be swept away. But with Josh having a bigger fandom than Gerry, I realized that hey, if this guy who is bigger than him can come out of the woodwork and talk about how Gerry is an abusive sack of shit, then maybe there's also hope for me.
Yeah, definitely. I guess that's kind of all as far as Gerry. We've sort of covered a good solid chunk of his history and sort of underlined his character flaws. Next to this, there's not really a whole lot that happens with Gerry, although he is constantly producing content that's just awful. It's not quite anything worth truly digging into. Like you've said, he has threads on Cow, the 8-channel Cow board, and he has threads on Kiwi Farms that are both very active. Gerry in particular sort of accrues like very bizarre detractors, I've noticed. He gets a lot of people who are just as cringy and weird as he is, and they sort of come in
just for no good reason.
Yeah, for no good reason. Who now that you mention it, I'm actually curious. What do you know of for no good reason, by chance?
I feel like he's the diet version of me. Hey, like he tries to escape Gerry and try and tell all the facts about him, but once Gerry gets his glare on him, he starts to suck up to him and kiss his ass because he is not as big as Gerry or Josh, so he's trying to ride Gerry's coattails and also ride the hate that Gerry is sending towards Josh to try and push himself up further.
For no good reason is a very bizarre character. Because yeah, he sort of came in to the Cow board, trying to build up his personal army to take Gerry down, and the Cow board kind of saw through him as another fucking weirdo. And when that didn't work, he took on a very like he sort of became more and more like Gerry. Actually, I would say, which is a fucking retard. At one point, he said that SJWs were not a thing because when he Googled SJW meetups, he couldn't find anything.
That still stands out to me as one of the most retarded things that anyone has ever fucking said.
It's so fucking weird. Like, it's so fucking weird. Like, there's the logic behind it just doesn't make sense. Like, a child would look at that and be like, no, you're fucking, that doesn't make any sense, buddy. That's not right.
Yeah, dig a little deeper and try again.
Yeah, like he's so bizarre. He got into like an internet fight with Mr. Medicare like a month or two ago.
Mr. Medicare is supposed to be doing a video about Gerry at some point.
He's supposed to be doing a fucking video about that guy with the glasses too. I've been waiting on that video for 3 fucking years. Let me tell you, this podcast mostly exists because Mr. Medicare takes too long to put shit out. If he produced content more regularly, we'd be out of a job. But I digress. he's the main reason we haven't done a Nick Bates video. His Nick Bates video is kind of all encompassing, and also there's just so much garbage to sit through with Nick Bates. Jesus. But yeah, I suppose as a catch up addendum to Gerry Peet, this episode has fulfilled its purpose. Is there anything else you'd like to say about Gerry, or for no good reason, or whatnot?
Other than the fact that they both suck, no. And unless you have a problem with me plugging my stuff so that people can come check me out, I think this episode is as good as done.
Yeah, go ahead, please. You have a YouTube channel, you said?
Yeah, if you guys out there enjoyed listening to me ramble on and wanted to see me ramble on about stuff other than Canadian tranny pedophiles, you can come check out my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/newtier16. It's called that because I made it back when I was a giant fucking weeaboo. But now it's a gaming and vlogging channel. Right now I'm doing a Let's Play of Golden Sun, so you can check that out. I also have a Twitter, twitter.com/BladeGDiamond2, with not the number 2, I. I have a Tumblr, AskBombasticBlake@tumblr.com. I have a Twitch channel, twitch.tv/BlakeandFriendsStream. I will be learning how to live stream shortly, and I'm going to start doing streams soon. And if you want to keep me out of the poorhouse, I have a Patreon, patreon.com/DiamondEntertainmentEnterprises.
If you'd like to see more Canadian trannies, Random Assault is the place to go. They put out an episode. I believe they put out an episode every week, on top of doing Let's Plays of mainly real old shit. They recently have started up Final Fantasy II, which is a fascinating game because I don't know how much you know about Final Fantasy, Blake, but most of the early Final Fantasy games don't try to be like epics. They try to be like role-playing games, you know? They're trying more to imitate the style of play of like D&D and whatnot. Final Fantasy II was the first one that tried. It tried to tell like a huge story with a huge world, and in many respects succeeded, and in many respects failed. But after Final Fantasy II, they kind of stopped doing that until Final Fantasy VI. So it's a fascinating game to look back at. They're also going to have a playthrough of Marathon, Bungie's original work, before they did Halo. It's a super interesting series because they really dig deeper into older games, and I really appreciate sort of looking back at the history for it. Other than that, it came from the internet. It's the podcast you're watching now, sort of. We talk about internet phenomena. We talk about weirdos on the internet and what have you. We don't have a set update schedule, but we're trying to put them out more consistently, at least once, if not more. So stay tuned. Our next episode should be coming in the next week or so. Next episode is going to be on the Game Grumps, assuming that nothing happens to keep me from finishing my research here. Other than that, we have a Discord now. It went to Discord. There should be a link in the description or somewhere. I'm sure you can find it if you look for. We're a happy little bunch, so come hang out with us. And that's going to be it. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned next time for the next episode. And I don't know. Fucking. God damn it, I was doing so good too.